Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Trusted Tech Talks podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Pople. I'm a senior software specialist at Maxwell Bond. This week I'm joined by Ishaq Amin, group lead at Google Developers Group and software engineer at Nine Mori, also the founder of JuniorDeveloper.careers, and together we'll be exploring diversifying tech talent from an educational background point of view. So Ishaq, that's quite an impressive background. How would you describe what you do to our listeners?
Hi, Aiden. So yeah, it does sound like quite an expansive background, but there's quite a few caveats to that. I suppose it's, how do I describe myself? I suppose as a software engineer, that's mainly what I do. But also with coming up through sort of an alternate background into this industry, as in not traditional through university or a degree. I've done a lot in terms of giving back to the community and building up a community of people, self-taught developers and bootcamp graduates, and supporting them in their endeavors, sort of to help them further themselves. So I don't know, developer, mentor, life coach, whatever else you can throw at
it. Because that's one thing I've noticed as well, is we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while now, and you've always given back to junior developers, asking any questions, just giving relevant information out. I think one post you did recently was just where they can get free content, free learning. So yeah, no, it's nice. So getting straight into the topic, the first question is, what does diversifying tech talent mean to you?
So this is a really good question, and it's something that we could probably talk for hours on, but obviously we've got a time limit today. There's different ways to look at it. So I've been to talks before where when they talk about diversifying tech talent, they're talking about, well, let's get more women in, let's get more gender minorities and sexual minorities into tech. But then that's not the sole diversification when it comes into tech. There's also the other side of it, which may be the less sexy side of it, which is neurodiversity. And in terms of neurodiversity, you're talking not just graduates, you're talking people like myself who didn't write the first line of code till they were 29. You're talking about people who are older than me. You know, there's people in my network who are 45, 50 who are moving into technology. Yeah. And that diversification now is not just about, again, gender, religion, race. It's about how people think and about how you bring alternate thinkers into your group. Which is an amazing thing, because I've met some incredibly talented people through boot camps, through mentorship. People I've mentored, people who've come from self-taught development backgrounds, and they are really amazing people. Like, they are incredibly talented, and they bring more skills to the industry, because especially the ones who have had previous jobs, they bring in a lot more skills in terms of their soft skills, conversation, sales, negotiation. And they're building overall stronger people, and they're sort of bringing that developer. It's, I suppose you could almost say it's like the upgrade of the developer. I don't really want to say that, because I'm probably going to offend a lot of people, but it's sort of where development's going in 2021, where now you know, you're not bedroom coding anymore. I mean, I say that I'm sitting in my bedroom right now writing code, but it's not the soul of it anymore. Now it's teams, now it's sales, now it's opportunity. You know, it's a lot more than what it used to be. So diversifying tech talent to me is neurodiversity as well as the other kind of diversity.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think when I started looking for recruiting software developers 6 years ago, you know, it was your software engineering background degree, and that's where the sort of career path went through. And then obviously we're coming through a lot of self-taught developers that are putting the projects on GitHub and breaking down the skills, and also obviously the coding boot camps, where I personally, I'm not going to mention their names, but I work with a head of engineering, like CTO role, who came from a boot camp, and he's probably one of the most intelligent coders, as well as great people skills as well, that I work with that come from that background. And there's also companies like, you know, some in the top 4 where they will only look at developers from a uni background, and they're missing out on great tech talent as well. Why, going to the next one, why is diversifying talent important? I know you mentioned it briefly in the first question, is getting the crossover of skills and different people. I don't know if you want to sort of touch on that.
Yeah, let's go into it a bit deeper. So first of all, just to go back to what you said about the top 4 companies are, hiring through uni. And for the time you've been a recruiter, you would have seen, I mean, you have seen, because we've had conversations about it before, that maybe 10 years ago it was constantly degree.
Yeah.
Now there were people falling through them cracks, but they weren't coming through at the rate they're coming through now. Nowadays, like the rate that boot camps and self-taught developers are coming through into the industry at, like, from what I've seen, they're blowing like a traditional university computer science applications and general people out of the water in terms of just the pure amount of people. And you yourself have probably seen it, coming through, and you've probably also noticed that the change in sort of attitudes between people, and not just attitudes. Again, we touch back on neurodiversity. You're not getting somebody who's been traditionally taught in sort of that university landscape. You're now getting people who are really, really eager to learn, and they've gone out actively and willing, invested their own money, their own time, their own sacrifice to get there.
Yeah, the drive. I can't say it because I can't paint everybody with the same brush, but they could possibly be a bit more driven if they've invested the more money. They've put their old career behind.
That's it. Because a lot of them are putting everything on the line. And this is not to, by the way, I should also just put the caveat in there that it's not to put down anyone who's come from a university background. I help a lot of people who are graduating from university who want to get onto the ladder, because now they are going against people who I mentor. So I am helping them because a lot of them now find themselves in the same position. So it's not to put them down. They are fantastic people as well. This is just an alternate view on diversification. And going back to your actual question, why is diversifying tech talent important? What it comes down to in technology, from what I've realized, is there's two ways to look at it in terms of diversity. So you've got diversity, which is sort of lip service, as we call it. It's look like you but think like me, is something that's gone around quite a bit, which essentially is, it's not diverse, it's a diversity tick box challenge. Yeah. So look like you, look different, but think like me. Yeah, that's not the neurodiversity of diversification. That's tick box challenging. But then you've got the actual people who say, look however you want, think different, and bring that to my team. Now, thinking different is very important, and people who are coming from alternate backgrounds are thinking different. We don't all solve problems in the same way. We don't all approach a challenge in the same way. And a lot of the times you'll find that putting together a team who have these different mindsets are more productive. And I do believe that I read a few, I wish I had them here with me. I read a few studies lately where they said teams with people from alternate backgrounds are more productive because they learn from each other, they push each other, and they approach things from a different angle. If you take 5 people from 5 different universities, again, I'm not putting them down, so I'm going to try to stop mentioning universities. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. A lot of the times, them 5 people will approach a problem in the same way because they've been taught to think in a certain way. But if you take 5 people, 2 from a self-taught background, 2 from a boot camp, and maybe another one from a boot camp, or I don't know, a university, then each one of them will more than likely approach a problem in a different way. They'll also have a big difference in the backgrounds of where they've come from. One of them, like myself, for example, I was an electrician and a refrigeration engineer for 10 years. So my mindset, my approach to a problem is problem solving. It's logical. That's the way I live my life because it's the way I've always been. If you take somebody who's been in sales, I don't know, you take someone who's been in, we've got doctors, we've got people who are coming from medicinal backgrounds like pharmacists, we've got people who have been stay-at-home mums.
I've noticed, I've noticed a lot of chefs as well. And I think one of the benefits is the high pressure of working there, having so much on your plate, as they.
I've helped a few chefs, so it's funny that you say that. And I do always say to them, well, you're obviously used to working in a high pressure environment, but you might have to swear a bit less, I think. Is the only thing I say to them. But you'll definitely get sworn at less when you come into a tech team. So it's diversifying tech talent, mate. It's about progress and it's about opportunity. There's so many amazing people out there, and when you start looking from a different neurodiversity point of things, you start looking at different backgrounds. You're bringing together a stronger team with more talent, with better soft skills, over your traditional team, you know, it's tenfold. It's tenfold. There's enough research out there. There's enough science out there to prove it as well.
No, I agree, and with obviously the huge tech shortage, it's solving problems with you know, the demand for developers. And the next question is, how do businesses implement diversifying tech talent? Now, I know Pretty Little Thing, they've partnered with North Coders. I'm not sure if you use yourself through North Coders. And that's sort of fully funded through Pretty Little Thing, and they're driving their tech talent there. I don't know if you've got any other examples of how businesses implement diversifying tech talent.
Yeah, so you see, that's a really interesting point and something I fully support. So North Coders do a fantastic job. I didn't come up through them, but I know them, and I fully respect what they've done. I've met quite a few of the developers who have come out of their bootcamp, and they are great people. Yeah. They're taught very well, and I've got a meeting coming up with them at some point soon as well. Just wanted out, it's just a general chit chat, so hopefully it's something I can get into, how I can help them help more developers as well. Cool. So that's really, really interesting, and that's, to be honest with you, that's the area I was going to answer this question with. It's the future of diversifying tech talent for companies is coming in house, I feel. And the reason being is, okay, so we've got boot camps out there, and boot camps have been the big boom for the last 5 years. So sort of from 2015, 16, I think the boot camp started to become a really popular thing, and they become the go-to thing. And in sort of the last 3 years, they've had a massive boom. Boot camps are turning out people, they're making a lot of money, but there are some sort of, they are hitting some sort of speed bumps on the way, in terms of what they teach is fairly generic. Having come through one now, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it, they do a fantastic job, but what they teach is fairly generic for one set of developers. So you're going to learn your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, you get commands. So it puts you in one direction, which is typically slightly software engineering, but a lot of web development, with a focus sort of on front end sort of things. Now, each company is different, and there are a lot of avenues you can go down. It's one thing that I say to people who want to come into this industry: do you know what sort of developer you want to be? Now, you don't need to know, but if you do, you can set a clearer career path. So now, Pretty Little Thing can go to North Coders now, because they're bringing it in house, and they can say, look, we want backend developers. So then North Coders can say, cool, we're going to do a 12-week bootcamp. Let's focus on Node, AWS, serverless applications, and you're going to get tailored. Yep, you're going to get a tailored student into your business, and they have to do that because there's so much. I mean, you know this. There's so much fierce competition for developers at the minute. Your competition for senior developers is so fierce, right? But what people are starting to realize now is, hang on a minute, right? We've got a pipeline of junior developers and people who want to learn how to develop. Most of these guys, you could take them out of a boot camp, put them in your business, put them in Pretty Little Thing for 6 months, and they will be contributing to code. They will be comfortable, and they will be producing business value, right? It's either they're going to be reducing costs through the work that they give, or they're going to be increasing sales through the work that they contribute, right? That's within 6 months. I can say, when I came out of my boot camp, within 2 months I was writing code for mobile development. When I left and went into my first job, I did not know anything about sort of full stack development, but within 6 weeks I was contributing code in JavaScript, React, Node, AWS, serverless applications.
So connecting the dots with the boot camp and getting the developers in a role, there needs to be like a partnership where they tailor the developers to their code and the project needs.
Yeah, so they've got two ways of doing this. So I think there's going to be two opportunities here. So number one is that they approach the boot camps like North Coders to say, look, this is how many people we want to take on per year. We want this many front end, back end, mobile developers. The other side of things, so it's three ways. So the other side of things is that they're going to say, let's do this in-house. So a lot of companies now, what they do when you join is they'll put you through their own 12-week boot camp to get you up to speed with what they do. Excuse me. And a lot of them will obviously concentrate on your coding standards, but that generally is going to involve a bit more from the company, because they're going to have to then say, okay, well, how much resources do we give? How much money do we put into this, making our own onboarding bootcamp? And the third thing is going to be that they well, it's going to be an opportunity for companies who come in and actually approach companies and say, look, we're this company, whoever you want to take on, send them to us. Again, it's typically like the boot camp, and we'll train them, we'll tell them, we'll get them sent to you, and they sort of make that then a specific business that tailors to each and every company, which is that's just their specific thing. So I suppose there's three ways that's going to move in the way I feel it.
How would you, because I know you give tons of advice out. So say, for instance, we have a self-taught developer who might be working, say, as a chef. What advice would you give them to try and get into, that first junior developer position where they're not in a situation where they can invest, thousands of pounds in a tech course, and they're not lucky enough to get the apprenticeship, and they're basically, in their spare time, coding away, building projects?
Yeah, so this is quite a lot of the people that I help. They're either people who have paid for the bootcamp out of their own pocket, or the people that the bootcamp have forgotten, or self-taught developers / graduates as well. So this is the thing, what people need to understand when they're coming from a self-taught background. So you've got your CV, right? Your CV claims what you can do, but what they need is they need to prove what they can do, which doesn't sound fair, but it's the way that it is. Right, so they need them projects on their GitHub, and you will come across a very small amount of people will say, well, I don't look at that when I'm recruiting, but 99% of the other people will say, what show me what you've done. Right, yeah. I've done it for the company that I'm with. So when I've looked at people who are applying for junior roles, I've gone through the CV, and the first thing I do is, right, okay, let me see. Now, you told me on your CV you can do JavaScript, React, and Node. Where's your projects? I can't see. So number one thing to focus on is have you got the proof, right? Build your portfolio. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't even need to have a real world application. It can be something for fun. It can be something crazy. One of the things that I built was a mobile app that just give you suggestions of food to eat.
Yeah, I remember.
It's mad, mate. Just, just shake it and it gives you some food, but it got me a job, right? Yeah. That little app, it took me a couple of days to make. It was an iOS app, and I went into a job interview against about 10 other people. We all had a similar background, but I had the app and I stood out because of that. I got the job, right? So you need to prove what you can claim you can do. So you need that portfolio. Again, don't need to be crazy exciting, just something simple with some technology. They need to use social media, and they need to get on LinkedIn, because that's where I've made so many opportunities. So they need to start building up that posting schedule once, twice a week, just building the network. That'll make them stand out. They need to then be prepared for the interviews. They're going to be hit a lot of interviews, and they can be very disheartening if you get put up for a live coding exercise and you've got to do some algorithm challenges, which some of them do. Some of them are horrible. There's a lot that I speak about, which we don't have time to fully go into.
Yeah.
I did an event lately which went on.
No, it's really valuable and good information. It's definitely answered the question, and give the junior developer who's self-taught some advice, because it can be tricky out there. Especially, I've had self-taught developers reach out to me and ask, how can I get my foot in the door? I've had 16 interviews and I've been knocked back, and it's very, very disheartening. But I think you've covered everything there. Is there anything you feel like you want to just touch on again?
The only thing I'd say, like you've just said there, people have done 16 interviews. I know how it feels, because I have been there. And the difference between me now and me 2 years ago is that if I send an application now, I get 9 times out of 10, I get a first, second, and final stage interview, even if I don't get a job offer, right? And I've proven that this year. So everything that I talk about through my own experiences, things that I've done. I've documented things that have worked, and I share that with people because I want people to get into this industry. So if they do follow me, then if they're looking for opportunity, then reach out to me and ask me questions. I do hold events as well every couple of weeks. The last one went on for about an hour and a half, but we went through what they need to do to stand out and get that first job, and it was received extremely well. So there's a lot there for companies, and there's a lot there for the juniors. We're in a place where them sort of two paradigms are coming together, and the world of self-taught developers and bootcamp graduates is growing massively, and it's just now connecting them two areas.
Definitely. And it's a really nice place to be in. I think, people that may not have had the access to university, but have always had that passion for IT, and pure creative spark can go into the career that they wanted. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Trusted Tech Talks podcast with me, Aiden Pople, and my guest speaker, Ishaq Amin, software developer and owner of JuniorDeveloper.careers. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss another episode again. If you want to discuss further, have follow-up questions, or are looking for a software engineer role yourself, please get in touch via LinkedIn or email.